For the historical review section, the idea is to start with an introduction sentence to set the scene. For example, maybe something to indicate that credit cards are used by many Australians as a source of credit for everything from general household expenses to more luxury items such as holidays and entertainment, and that today consumers have many products to choose between. This could then be followed by some type of comment about that in particular during the last decade we regularly hear from media sources that there has been an increase in both the level of credit card debt and the availability of credit. This notion can be supported by the total monthly credit card balance and available limit data, which can be sourced from the Reserve Bank of Australia website. At this point, you are therefore ready to refer to Figure 1, which would display these monthly figures in a format appropriate for time series data. After the chart, you would continue your discussion by examining the specific features as well as then linking those features to real life. For example, you could point out that the overall increasing trend was relatively slow during the late 80s and early 90s, but that it has increased rapidly during more recent years. Maybe include reference to particular years and try to further quantify the trend. You could also discuss how the balance and limit trends compare. Please keep in mind that the presentation of data into a chart is therefore only the first part of this section. You have to be able to communicate the features as well as interpreting them in relation to real life. Presenting the data is not sufficient for this report. Analysis and interpretation must be included. Following the historical section, we can go on to the analysis of the current market. This will be quite a large component of the report, as you will need to firstly consider the distribution of interest rates in isolation, which is one variable analysis. You will then need to consider what factors may influence interest rates, and so this then means several bivariate relationships must also be analysed. Since this is a large section, it is nice to have a couple of sentences before the first subsection, maybe something just to set the scene and refocus the reader, such as the popularity and availability of credit cards has increased rapidly during the last decade. While the level of home loan interest rates tends to receive more regular media commentary, the potential issue of escalating credit card rates is also of concern to many households. Followed by a sentence to then indicate the structure of the section, such as, in this section, the current state of the credit card market within Australia will be investigated to determine the level of rates available and as well the possible factors influencing these rates. You are then ready to write subsection 4.1 and therefore focus on the interest rate. For each of the subsections, we will need to follow the report writing conventions, and so a good template is intro sentence, chart or table, features, and then the interpretation and analysis. This is your opportunity to discuss the results in the context of the data. In terms of your review of current interest rates, we could start 4.1 by saying something like, consumers have more choice than ever before in relation to credit cards. In this section, the interest rate of a sample of 281 credit card options will be considered with a view to understanding the current state of the market. Figure 2 illustrates the distribution of interest rates within the sample. You could then include a histogram to visually show the distribution of interest rates. Below, you would note the key features. Generally, a good summary of features will include things like the average, lowest value, highest value, and shape. It is also useful to note the modal class. The features then need to be put in context and linked to real life. A good concluding sentence for the subsection is to have a lead into the next subsection. For example, something like, in the next section of the report, factors which may influence the interest rates, such as whether the card is from a bank or non-bank institution, will be examined. The same structure template can be used for each of the bivariate subsections. For the bivariate analysis, you are looking to comment on which factors most strongly influence the current interest rates, and so this type of comment can be a good concluding sentence in each subsection. Still follow the same structure: intro sentence, table chart, features, then go into your discussion where you can analyse and interpret and link everything to the real life context. That's what you'll do for each of 4.2, 4.3 and 4.4. By that stage, you're ready for the conclusion, so that will be your final section. As conclusions should be drawn within each section and subsection of the report as you go through, the final conclusion section will only be fairly small and is really just an opportunity to quickly recap on the major findings so as to remind the reader what they should be taking away from the report. No recommendations are required, and so your conclusions should be in relation to the overall credit card market, both historical and current. Finally, after the conclusion, you will include your appendix. I mentioned earlier that you would need an outlier appendix. Generally, this is the only appendix that should appear in your report, as anything important, including tables and charts, should appear within the report itself. If you do find that you have something extra that you want to include as an appendix, that is okay, but please keep in mind that the report should be able to be read without looking to any appendices, and so it is vital that all of your findings and conclusions go inside the report itself. Now, please don't forget that once your technical report is complete, that you need to go back and write your executive summary. The idea is that the executive summary should provide enough information so that someone who did not want to read the entire technical report could read the executive summary and know all of the key findings. This is in relation to any key figures, but also with regard to the real-life interpretation of the data analysis. Okay, well that's everything I need to say for the moment. Maybe create your Word document and start adding in a basic structure of headings, but then I would recommend going to the Excel file and thinking about the outlier analysis, as well as making a start on the historical analysis. The workshops will be a good opportunity to think more about the report tasks, and don't forget the consultation sessions can also be used to ask for help. Please feel free to bring along your Excel file if you have questions. And so that's it. I'll hopefully see you at some of the workshops.